and everything.
All right, we are here and we are live with Mr. Judge Graham at the Profit Rocket Conference in 2022.
Let's go.
Yeah, just listened to your talk. It was absolutely fire.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, it was great.
I love being on stage. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah? What's your second favorite thing?
Watching both of my sons play football.
Nice.
How old are they?
Yeah.
I've got a 13-year-old and 11-year-old. And so the 13-year-old just started school ball, and it's fucking awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's super cool. What position?
He's like a running back, receiver, and a linebacker.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Does it all.
Does it all, man. He plays football. Right? Position, he's football.
Yeah. I guess when they're that young, they just kind of play it all.
Yeah.
They generalize into one, right?
Yep,
So,
that's
at least
it.
you didn't say hockey, and at least you didn't say goalie.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, to kick off the event, we had Joe Montana on stage.
Yeah,
right?
another football huge icon. It was great. Talking about winning and what it takes to win was really good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and then iconic leader, right? When you think of Joe.
For sure.
Big thing that you touched on was culture.
100%.
It's definitely something that you're known for. You talked about it last year, too, at the event.
Yep.
And there was a lot of things that really resonated with me. Why is culture so important to an organization? Why is it something that we need to focus on as leaders?
I tell people all the time, if you're building a company, a real company, right? You're building a company you want to scale, a requirement, not a nice to have, a requirement is people,
right?
Is staff to get to scale. And so the formula with scale that includes people has to have culture, right? It has to have a dynamic culture. And I usually use the definition of growth culture because it's so important to get to that next level, right? And real entrepreneurs, real business owners that make real money and have real exits understand that power of culture. They harness the power of culture and they implement it. And most importantly, they lead. They lead in a culture first environment. And what's great about culture is you determine as the leader, what culture do you want, right?
Absolutely.
So somebody looking at that and they're coming in and let's say they came from a shitty organization or shitty culture or one that even was mediocre. When they sit down now as a leader in a new business or even rebranding their culture, what are some things that somebody's going to be able to do to be able to really establish this culture of growth and a winning attitude and around the team?
Walking into something like that is going to be tough, right? But what I love about culture is the leader. You set the tone, okay? And I mentioned there, like, hey, if anybody has core values, you should revisit them. If you're not living them, if they're not intrinsic to who you are, then you're living in a false positive, right? So that person needs to say, what type of organization do I want? What are the daily habits and behaviors and mindsets that I want this company to move forward doing? And then what you have to do is you have to have a hard assessment of, is the current team, they could be great people, but if they're not in sync and in line with those core values, then you're going to have to start making cuts and you have to rebuild what I call like a tribe-like organization with people that have like-minded, habits, behaviors, and mindsets in order to turn that around.
Well, and I love that you brought up habits because, I mean, Aristotle said we are what we repeatedly do.
Yep.
Right? And if you're not continually measuring and tracking how it is that you're living that culture on a daily basis, it gets lost.
You lose. Yeah.
Right. And that's something that I find and see more often than not is that, oh, yeah, we've got this culture statement and it exists somewhere. It's on this piece of paper that nobody really knows, nobody lives. How is it that you can go about as a leader making sure that everyone is living that culture? And more importantly, how is it that they can really embody it?
Well, I think you have to, and I love the embodiment part, you have to empower, right? In real organizations, people feel empowered. And they have to feel empowered against those core values, right? So one of my organizations, core value was fearless, right? Now, how do you live that? Well, you have the ability to make decisions.
Right.
You have the ability to fail, right? That's living that core value. That's how you instill those things. And so it's important to take those words and manifest them into actions, behaviors that now can be measured in order to determine is the culture really being lived or not.
Right. I love it. Cues. I definitely want to get into that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the organization that you run.
Yep.
One of the things that I love about it is the ability to measure success and the things that you want to see continually happening, right? And we talk about habits, right? what habits do you want to build in your organization? What things do you want to track and measure and then reward people for?
Yep.
Right. Talk a little bit about how cues can help an owner, help a business stay on top of these things.
For sure. I mean, Q's is just like a little app in your pocket that helps, could be one of your best employees that's digital, right? In the sense of you're never going to miss an employee's birthday. You're never going to miss their work anniversary. You're never going to miss when they cross their goals. You're never going to miss when they beat their best day, right? And that acknowledgement and that text and that notification allows you as the owner, the operator, the manager to be proactive and take action against that culture. Now, in the moment that matters, I can congratulate you. I can send you a text. I can send you a high five. I can send you a gift card. It also allows us to collect data on the employee to understand personalities. They like to fish. They like to hunt. They like to podcast, whatever it is. And I can take those cues and I can pick out appropriate gift cards to personalize. Right. And then you can run contests and you can do so many things within cues that are all around employee recognition, rewarding, motivation, and results.
Right. Well, then even something so simple as, hey, happy birthday, or birthday gift,
Huge.
or birthday card, right? Like those small things, and like those small things add up.
They matter.
And they really, really matter. And people always think, well, what? Yeah, the one big yearly thing. Well, no, all those little tiny things, something as simple as a happy birthday wish, or happy birthday card, or hey, happy birthday, go get yourself a Starbucks today. Boom, here's a $5 or $10 gift, card for Starbucks. They're gonna really like that, and it doesn't really cost you a lot.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's the compounding effect, right?
Yes.
Like what people don't realize is if you're not doing it consistently, right, it won't compound, right? And when you really start to understand the cost of losing employees, then you start to take these things more serious, right? In the lack of employees being engaged, once they're recognized, once they're motivated, once they're engaged, they're happy, the organization's happy, customers are happy, you'll make more profit, you'll make more revenue.
Yep.
Well, and I there was a leader in an organization that I used to work for, and I left that organization 7 years ago now. I still get a happy birthday message every year from him.
Oh, wow.
Like, he is just an incredible human being, but
Sure.
it's things like that. It makes an impact, and it's as simple as happy birthday. I hope you had the best year ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's simple. Yeah. Yeah. And that's just one of a multitude of things Q's does. We really try to, like, all the success I've had in my life has been based around building growth cultures in organizations to scale people.
Right.
And so I bottled up the last 25 years of my career and got with my business partner and said, what am I going to do with you to create and use technology to allow that to work across any business owner and specifically within home service.
Yep.
Well, and you've been around home services for a long time. I mean, you ran marketing campaigns for them.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
mean,
It's a great business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not something that's new to you in terms of
Yep.
how can we help make an impact and help grow a business.
Yep.
Performance measured is performance gained.
Yeah, for sure. The other great is you can't manage what you can't measure.
Right.
And so it's so important for people and employees and managers to have clear goals and understand where they're pacing, right? And that's another thing Q's really brings to light is, goal tracking and pacing. People typically miss goals because they get notified and it's too late, right?
Yes.
They're too far behind,
Yep.
or you can't pivot, make those adjustments. And so Q's also helps you always know where you're at, and you're getting little cues on, hey, you're ahead, you're behind, and your manager knows that as well too, right? So you have this aligned organization against the goals, motivating them, using rewards and recognition around it.
Right. Well, and I'm glad you said rewards and recognition, because a lot of people think, well, I'm going to reward them monetarily.
Sure.
Well, guess what? Money's not a big motivator for the majority of people.
Yeah.
Like
Time's the
99.9%
new
of people,
currency.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. 99.9% of people aren't actually motivated by money.
Yeah.
It's a short-term pop,
Yeah.
but it doesn't
Dopamine
long-term
hit.
sustain, right? And so when you do those sorts of rewards and even just positive recognition in front of a group of people like that. I mean, some people
For sure.
don't, but a lot of people just like the attaboy, the pat on the back in front of a group of their peers.
Yep.
And that can go a long way. So it's more than just a monetary compensation here
Yep.
that you're talking about. You're talking about building it ingrained and also helping them achieve their goals. I know one of the things that we've done in our organization recently is chatting with our team members one-on-one about what their personal goals are.
Yeah, I love that.
Not their business goals, talk about their personal goals. And so, how often do you actually talk with your team about what they want to achieve in their life?
Yeah.
right?
That's great.
So somebody that, on that note, if you're having that conversation, what would you say to a business owner who's like, well, I've never had a conversation with somebody to talk about their goals ever in their life? Where would you start?
I would say you got to break down the facade. I remember a younger judge was always nervous, or I felt too important to, I'm the boss, you're the employee, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think that you've got to break down that facade, and the world has changed, how work has changed. I mean, there's blurred lines between work and social. It's all kind of together now, right? With
Yep.
people working at home and different hours and different things. And so if you're not willing to recognize and accept that that's changed, then you're going to be in for a big shock, right? And so since that has changed, it's really important to now get more personal with those employees, right? I mean, to understand, like, hey, what do you like to do? What are your personal goals? Like, that person is going to leave you regardless if you have that conversation with them or not. You'd better be ahead of it to understand what motivates them, and maybe you can put them on a path that you learn something you wouldn't have learned if you wouldn't have asked.
Right.
Because a lot of the times people really don't understand the talent they have, because then they haven't taken the time to understand where people are at capacity and how to maximize them based on what they want to do.
Very insightful.
I love it. Well, we're coming up on just over 10 minutes here, so definitely want to keep these episodes short while we're in the hallway here, and there's background noise, and I know lunch is going to be breaking right away.
Great event, too.
It's a fantastic
Phenomenal
event for anyone that's missing it.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. You probably should have been here.
Right? If he does it again next year, get here next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
Judge, I'm curious, what's one question you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
Would ask me more.
Yes.
Wow.
But they don't.
But they don't. I think people always ask about, the easy questions, like how'd you get here and what's success. I think questions people should ask is like, how'd you deal with it when it was tough, right? Because it's easy for me to tell you but the questions that should be asked is like, hey, when it was dark and you were bankrupt, or you had a baby on the way and you had no money, like when you had to dig deep and figure that out, because that's where most people live and where they are, and they're aspiring to do that, but no one ever asks that question, right? They don't ever ask, like, how do I deal with that? And I think we need, as an entrepreneur community, to open up and listen. Being an entrepreneur is hard. Being a business owner is hard, and we need to knock down this facade that it's easy and it's always fun and it's never stressful. And I wish people would focus more on, hey man, I'm struggling with this. I'm depressed. I feel like I'm gonna run out of money, or whatever that is, because that's really what's happening until you make it.
Right.
So, Judge, I'm in a dark place right now.
Are you?
I'm struggling. What were some of the things that you did to work through that and get through that to the other side?
So I talk about it a lot in my book, Scale with Speed. It's a formula. It's start with your end game. Speed is an acronym. The S is start with your end game. And you have to get clear on that. Okay. And what I mean by end game is definitively, like, what do you want? Why do you want it? And when? And that seems like an easy exercise, but most people won't do that. Okay. And what I mean by that is, like, what do you want? Detailed. I want a Lamborghini. I want 10 million in the bank. I want whatever, right? That's fun. Most people will say all that shit. Then I go, okay, well, why do you want it? Right. Do you really want a Lamborghini? Well, maybe I don't. Like, and you start to whittle down your version of winning and success, because it's the only person you're competing against is you, right? Your version of success is very different than everybody else's. So what do you want? And then the why do you want it is the gut check to really go, am I just saying that because I think that that's what society has told me is success, or is this is really what I want and why? Does that make sense? You guys tracking?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then the last piece is time. Time is the only thing you can't buy, you can't make more of, and you have to then associate a time frame.
Yep.
Okay. If you don't have a date, it's not real. And then you back into the plan, and you have to be willing to sacrifice whatever the fuck it takes within that. Or you've got to adjust if you don't want to sacrifice as much. Right. And that's how you deal with the dark. You've got to understand. I have a concept called burn the ships. It's like, until you fully fucking commit, you're going to lose. Yep. And so if you have to understand, am I mentally tough enough to live in that dark space against my end game and sacrifice what is required? And if you're not, then you need to get out of it.
I like that.
Helpful.
Right.
That was amazing.
Super helpful. Well,
Absolutely.
But and even just having conversations with people about you being in your dark space will help that out too, right? As a precursor to going through that exercise. But we talk a lot about the higher why. If you read anything about Simon Sinek, start with why. Phenomenal book, but it also gives you your purpose and your end goal on what you're actually wanting to work towards to and achieve. But I like taking it that next step further. And what you've done is that adding in that timepiece, are
most
you
important,
right?
yeah.
Most important, when do you want to achieve that by, and what are you willing to sacrifice to get there? And if you're not willing to make all those sacrifices, then you need to reassess your why, right? Change your why or change your timeline, to be able to do it.
Well,
it's
and I think it also
stuff.
that also takes the pressure off, right? I mean,
Right.
I really believe, because people don't take the time to do what I just said, there's an exorbitant amount of pressure you're putting on yourself to where you really sit down and go, you know what, my version doesn't have to be this difficult. Right. What I want, I'm willing to sacrifice and achieve, and I have to be happy with that. Right.
Yep.
So that's super important. That would be the question. Hope that helps any listeners. But it's one that, and I live by it because my life changed once I did it.
Right.
And that was the shift, right? I said, hey, I've had enough, and I've got to build this and sacrifice to do it, and that was it. There's no other choice.
Yep. Nope.
Love it.
Burn the ships, baby.
I love that.
Burn
So
the ships.
Right.
Judge, this has been awesome. Like, honestly, that last answer was phenomenal. We'll be cutting that up and pasting it everywhere because
Awesome.
it was
That's a good snippet.
unreal.
So
Absolutely.
Shaw,
Thank
Mallory,
you so
would
much
make
for
note of
coming
that
on.
one.
Yeah.
Thad, you want to throw up the website where you can find more about Q's?
I already put it up earlier, but
Did you?
getqs.com.
Getqs.com.
There you
Get
go.
your ass over there. Check it out.
Definitely. Get a plug, man. We would love to free demo, no contract, super cost effective. Get everybody up within 24 to 48 hours. It's a game changer in your business. Take the time to
Is
look
it
at
just for HVAC, or can any business use it?
Any business can do it. You
Perfect.
actually have the broader getqs.com is kind of the mother site.
Yep.
We've got HVAC specific. We have a high concentration in HVAC.
Yep.
So we're very, familiar with what kind of contests, how to set up things and do that. But it's a great tool and product to change your business.
Nope, love that. So perfect.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah, y'all check it out. Appreciate the time, fellas.
Yeah, been a pleasure.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate you.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Ciao.
Good.
Until next time.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.